Hey all, it's Casey Cover, and I'm the host for Training with Casey. Thanks, Joseph, for the introduction. Here today is a special day. We're going to talk about the intermediate bridge. So I'm sharing the screen and I want to show you a video that's probably 20 years old, at least, maybe more like 25. Anyway, here it is.
X, 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 good girl.
That's the intermediate bridge, and here's the effect. This isn't a command. This is telling an animal that there's an opportunity to work together, and right now they're doing exactly what I want them to do. You notice, not only do I not feed her, she brings her own food. Do you like that? Yeah, I did too. Now, how is it now? Let's take it.
So my wife got me this weird new tool for Christmas. And at first, I thought it looked kind of crazy. But after using it just one time, I could not believe the...
Okay, there we go. And here we are now. Sarah is over 31 years old.
How are you? You're the best.
There we go.
Ooh. Hey,
Now you don't hear an intermediate bridge.
Look, you ready? How are you?
The intermediate bridge comes before, after, during the teaching, and whenever it's needed. You don't have to be spewing it out constantly. Now, I'd like to show you another short video. And the setup on this one is Sarah and I love to go on walks together. And the rules of the stable are she has to have a halter on and a lead rope. So I would tie it up around her head. And in this particular case, I'm leaving a field. Behind me is a field. And in that field, Sarah is grazing on some wild salad that she's foraging. And my dog, who's a cattle dog, is out ahead of me. And somebody who's assisting me is also out ahead of me. And I had told Sarah I was going in and that it was time for her to be fed. But she's not that eager to run in to get food. And of course, she has food right where she is. But I'll tell you what she is eager about, and that is to stay close together. And I'm eager about that too. So I don't mind if she stays back. You know, I'm going to take longer to walk back to the barn so she can get her food than she will. So if she wants to come after me, that's fine. But here's what happens when she realizes I've gone.
Start going back. That way.
Here she comes.
Woo, good girl. Good job.
You see, my dog comes out and refuses her. Dog knows better. She doesn't normally do it. But there it is. Sarah could have run back to the barn. She knows exactly where it is. That's what most horses like to do. And this is what she does instead. This is training and relationship when you have information-rich training.
All right. Food's going to go in the red bucket, and the tools are going to go in the white bucket.
Just 1 second.
Okay? Which bucket does this go into? Red or white? Red. Good job. That's a food.
Okay, so that's some of the other stuff we do. But keeping the subject to the intermediate bridge, here is an article that was written about Robin Wiltshire, who's a trainer for the Clydesdales, the Anheuser-Busch Clydesdales. I believe he's an Australian trainer. And this is an article that was under discussion on my colleagues' private group on Facebook. And they noticed that this gentleman uses a clicker as an intermediate bridge. So where is that? Well, let me show you. So we can't see the whole thing here, but I'm going to show you, first of all, 2 examples where he's using a keep going signal. Hold on, I've got to find the video. Okay. All right, let's start it there.
Good boy!
So did you hear that verbal? I'm not sure exactly what he's saying. It could be a verbal form of an intermediate bridge. Good, good, good. But it sounds like a recue. Let's look at it again.
Good boy! Good
It
boy!
does sound like repeated goods. Okay, but that's okay. I have another one here. Okay, the next one is, this is an actual clicker used as an intermediate bridge. So this one's going to start at 2 minutes and 6 seconds. We'll just play it from here because it's only.
Good boy!
Okay, here it starts. Hear that?
Good. Touch it. No.
And it looks like he's using the term "that's it" in order to mark the correct culmination of behavior, the success point. I would do that. I'd use a verbal. I always use a verbal. Well, I don't always, but I usually use a verbal. It's just so much easier to control, to vary. There's some people that think you want a monotone, repetitive bridge, kind of like good, 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 good. No, that's not what I want. I want good, 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 good. Okay. Anyway, so that dog was getting a clicker when he was going up to the window. Now, our next example is at 2 minutes and 49 seconds. So here it is. Here we go.
Chris, good boy, good boy. Chris.
Okay, so he's saying, good boy, good boy. But then he's giving a command repeatedly. And that's a keep going signal. That's a definite keep going signal. Now, it sounds like he's saying frisk or maybe wrist. I don't know what his cue is. And there's enough ambient sound that I'm not really confident I'm hearing it well. But anyway, that is clearly a keep going signal. And then finally, another intermediate bridge. This is at 3 minutes and 20 seconds. And here we go.
Good.
Oh, you know what? I got something. That's a definite intermediate bridge. I mean, keep going. It is saying push, push, push.
Good boy.
And whoa! And look back.
That's kind of an intermediate bridge. Good, good boy. So what is the difference between praise and an intermediate bridge? Well, praise means the same thing, but it requires interpretation. It requires processing. Whereas the intermediate bridge is conditioned, it's a signal, and the animal already knows what it means. So it's much faster. It's processed much more quickly by the animal's brain. So I will do both all the time. I'll say, good, 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 good. That is so great. You are such a great animal. That is amazing. So it's all kind of like a bridging, praising party, but there's definitely a stream of very specific feedback that good, 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 good. Okay. Now you see how as I do it, you can tell some are faster. That is really fast. Almost as fast, and it's very precise. If you look at the signature, the sound signature of that sound, it's like a bunch of little stilettos, just like a scalpel marking that exact instant. Now, another thing about intermediate bridges as we use them is they are not compound sounds in the same way that a clicker makes a compound sound. So with clicker, it goes click, 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 click. You have a beginning edge and an ending edge. And the clickers that I have tested take a third of a second to go through that double sound. So you can only have 3 clicks per second. But when you hear, if we time that using our recording, we can actually see how many we get in a second, for example. We are getting 7.82 to 7.83 per second. What a strange number. Have you heard of that number before? Well, I have. And some of our other trainers have. My dad used to tell me about that number all the time. He was a physicist. And that is the Schumann resonance, the main Schumann resonance. The Schumann resonance is the heartbeat of the earth. It's the oscillations of the earth's molten magnetic core. We all evolved with that. Like that's in our background. We don't even probably consciously notice it. But we respond to that sound. Why else would I make it at that speed? I had no design to make it at any particular speed. But here's something else. All over the world, when I start using the intermediate bridge, horses and dogs and other animals will immediately come over to see me, not quite as fast as Sarah does, but with enthusiasm. If they hear me when they're at home and they're listening with their owner on the computer, they will come to the computer, wag their tail, and stand there expectantly. And I remember that happening at Dr. Daniel Miller's lab in Lincoln University or University of Lincoln. And a bunch of the people that are helping him with research are clicker trainers, and they had brought their dogs with them. And to all of our surprise, as I was demonstrating and showing video of the intermediate bridge, a bunch of the dogs came up from their seats and stood right in front of me, wagging their tails and looking expectantly. So that's the first time I had seen that. Now I'm used to it. I see it all the time. So let me recap what we've talked about so far. Oh, I need to tell you the history of the keep going signal and why I can speak with confidence on exactly what it is compared to an intermediate bridge. In 2004, I presented a workshop at the ABAI conference in Boston, Massachusetts. And it's Applied Behavior Analysts International. That's the name of the conference. And Karen Pryor and some of her friends, including Jesus Rosales Ruiz, registered for this seminar, for this workshop. And at it, I demonstrated the intermediate bridge, the bridges and targets, terminal bridge, perception modification, cycles, and bridge and target training as it's done with SATs. To my surprise, in particular, Jesus Rosales Ruiz found it very controversial that I was using this signal, the intermediate bridge. In fact, he challenged me that it would destroy the usefulness of the terminal bridge. That by issuing all those good without food for every single one of them. And in fact, do you notice I don't even use food a lot of the time when I give a terminal bridge, any more than if a friend comes over for lunch, I don't give them a bite of food every time they say something I like. I just say, hey, let's enjoy each other's company and then we'll have lunch. And we do exactly that. My relationship with my animals is very similar. If we're working on something very concentrated, then maybe we'll do food for every trial. But I often don't. In fact, if I forget food, I will often just tell my horse or my dog, I am so sorry, I don't have treats. Could we do this for a while and then we'll go out to graze? And my horse will literally tell me yes, and we will go to work. I find it much better for our relationship to not have everything pivot on food. We pivot on collaborating together, the joy of doing the job, the joy of doing the training. And again, that's what you're seeing in those videos. We don't want to be separated. I don't mind if she does something else under certain conditions, but she doesn't want to be separated and I don't want to be separated. Okay, so during this discussion with Karen Pryor and Jesus Rosales Ruiz, Karen Pryor took possession of the term keep going signal. And they decided clearly that this was a re-cue. Now, the intermediate bridge is different. The intermediate bridge is a tertiary and possibly a primary reinforcer. I just told you the evidence that we have that the intermediate bridge is actually innately reinforcing, possibly because of its learned association with the earth environment. So it is a reinforcer, not a cue or a discriminative stimulus. It is a discriminative stimulus in that it has a specific meaning, but it's not a specific meaning that says, do this. Its meaning is you are doing this very well. Okay, so that is how we use it. And what are the uses of it? We have identified at least 14. So let's take a look at them. Let's see here. All right, here's an article on the intermediate bridge on my website. So as you can see here, you go to Sinalea.com/aboutsats/IB. And I say that it's a continuous, immediate conditioned feedback, does not require conscious processing, processed in 0.025 seconds versus 0.2 for light or touch. It's faster than a clicker, which takes 0.33 seconds to deliver and is a compound sound with 2 edges, which mars precision. In other words, which exact point in those two sounds, the average, the first edge, the second edge, we never actually spell that out for an animal with a clicker. The IB confirms correctness for the animal, relieving uncertainty in early learning and encouraging the animal to continue in success. It increases speed and efficiency of training, confidence and success of the animal, and it improves the animal trainer relationship. How do you condition it? It just takes 3 trials. And with the initial conditioning of the terminal bridge, the intermediate bridge, and the first finger target, that whole set of learning takes less than 1 minute. So I mentioned a few uses of the intermediate bridge. Here are more. It reduces latency. Latency is the delay in the animal starting to execute the cue. It removes uncertainty. The animal's confident in what it's supposed to do. It reduces repetition and trials. It reduces learning error. It accelerates progress. It intensifies focus. It intensifies effort. It supports effort or try. It supports self-correction. Here's the beauty of this one. If the animal is getting a steady stream of intermediate bridges, and all of a sudden that stream stops, he's within 1/8 of a second of being correct. He was correct 1/8 of a second before the bridges stopped. And normally the animal can immediately self-correct. We never even say a word. All we do is stop the bridge. And then as soon as he, gets himself together, then it's good, 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 good again. We can use an intermediate bridge to define the limits of a behavior. Hey, the limits of a behavior is just as important as teaching the behavior in the first place. For example, when I taught monkeys to be aids for quadriplegics, they needed to learn to turn on the light. Well, they need to learn to turn on the light and only do it 1 time. If you don't specifically teach that limit, you will get a monkey that says, oh, you want me to turn on the light? I'd be happy to turn on the light. And you are at their mercy. You have to train cleanly and teach them the limits of the behavior. All right, we can use the IB to extend duration. It is just like a super tool for building duration. We can use it to counterbalance a distraction or environmental challenge. We can use it to anchor an animal to correct behavior through a change, distraction, or a challenge. We can use it to create smooth transitions between behaviors and to fade or change cues. And there's probably even more uses, but that's 14 of them. So let's review now. Intermediate bridge is a continuous stream of information that tells the animal you are on the right track. And between using the intermediate bridge and a target to show an animal exactly what I want to do, I never use luring. And that is a beautiful thing, because you think about it. When an animal is being lured, you'll get the appearance of having the behavior. The animal will very quickly go right through the behavior. But does the animal consciously understand what he did correctly to earn the treat? One of my associates actually did that experiment with children and found out that the animals the children took about the same time, whether you taught them with bridge and target or clicker. However, the children that were taught with the clicker had no idea why they were getting a reward. And the children that were taught with the bridge and target knew exactly what they did. Now, I train using a lot of cognition and cognitive tools. I would never stop. I'm not interested in training any other way. And the intermediate bridge and name and explain are major tools for accomplishing that. All right, so we have the things that the intermediate bridge does for you. We have the fact that it ushers in conscious learning, which is dynamite. It removes the need for luring. In that beautiful horse video about Robin Wiltshire, he does lure a sheep by putting food on a target. And that's not a terrible thing, but I've got to tell you, in my experience, it's an unnecessary step. It's so fast to teach an animal to target. And you think about it, if you have to run around with a sheep and you're trying to balance all that food on a target, life can get complicated very quickly. It's a lot faster to say, okay, here, touch this. Okay, that's a target. Can you touch it over here? Great, that's running. You're running to your target. Now I'm going to send you to your target. Ready? Good, 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 good. There you go. It can be that fast. And I don't need to put any food on a target and avoid spilling it all over. What happens when you spill food on the ground? You're out of the training business for a little while your animal gets it all up, right? Okay, then we covered what a keep going signal is. It's a re-cue. In other words, it's a discriminative stimulus that tells the animal what you want them to do. The bridge does not cue an animal. It gives him feedback that what he's doing already is what you want. So how do you get all the nuances that I told you you could get? The animal can go faster or slower or more intensely or longer duration. It's timing. It's timing. And once you become fluent, man, it's dynamite. And let me see if there's anything else. Checking my notes here. Well, that's actually quite a lot. I'm going to stop share for a minute and check my chat notes for you. And again, the video that I showed you will be available at the YouTube channel. So let me take a quick look at the YouTube channel so that I can give you the link for that. Okay, I've got enough screens open. It's going to drive me nuts. There we go. All right. So the YouTube channel is youtube.com/C/Casey Cover. And if you go to that YouTube channel, you can see all these videos, and we'll put the links up there. And you can also see a lot more video. Now we're going to send you to another place, which is our podcast channel. And that is Training with Casey. So you just go to YouTube and search for Training with Casey, and you'll get right there. Okay, thank you so much for joining me. I hope that this clarifies what is an intermediate bridge and what is a keep going signal. And on the website, you can read the history in detail, but suffice it to say that I developed this signal while working with researchers at the University of Maryland in 1990. And one of the videos you can see at my website, sinalea.com/press, scroll down for video, and you can see all kinds of things that we've done with animals using bridges and targets and name and explain. And you will see that the Oh, I just lost my train of thought. I hate that. Oh, the pig video. And you have to click on it because I guess they decided that it could be upsetting for people to see pigs being bled. You know, they're not getting bled to death or anything. They're just taking a blood sample. But if you don't teach the animals to cooperate, it can be very upsetting. And so this is video that we did in 1990. This is where we developed the intermediate bridge. However, you'll never see an intermediate bridge in this particular piece of video because we used it to develop the behavior. And once the animals were confident, we just took it right out. And that's what you'll see. Animals that are quickly, quietly, just doing what we ask them to do. I'm going to give you a tip to look for that I think it's going to really make this fun. When we taught these pigs to allow us to stick a 5-inch needle up to the hilt in their vena cava voluntarily so that we could collect blood as required by law to test for brucellosis and pseudorabies, we did have one problem. It wasn't with the training. It only took an average of an hour per animal. And that was done in 3 to 5 minute training sessions, 3 to 4 times a week for 2.5 weeks. So from beginning to end, we taught all of the pigs to allow us to take blood in 2.5 weeks. But we did have one other problem, and that was they all wanted to be first. When they understood what we were doing and how to do it, and they were well supported with the name and explain and the intermediate bridge, they were no longer afraid of having a needle. They were eager. They wanted to be first. What's the proof of that? Look carefully, because as Benny Eretz takes blood from one pig all by himself, there's a second pig waiting quietly right behind his shoulder, waiting for his turn in line. Okay, folks, thanks again for being with me. I hope you really enjoy this and that you explore further about the intermediate bridge. And please subscribe. When you subscribe, it helps us so much because that's how our work gets shown to more people. So please subscribe. And of course, it's great if you leave a comment or a like. We like those likes. And please subscribe not just to our YouTube channel, but also to the podcast channel. Visit the website. Really have some fun learning about SATs. It is such a great way to be with others. All right, till next time. Thank you.